So Honkai Star Rail recently announced that they'd be buffing older characters, and this has many people excited, including myself. But it also made me think about how Hoyo will actually go about buffing these older characters, so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're also going to talk about why this is so important for the game, and how it can be very much improved if it's implemented well. Without further ado, let's just get into it. Before we start, I think it's important to lay out why this is happening in the first place. If you're out of the loop somehow, Honkai Star Rail has a little thing called power creep, which is when new content makes old content feel less powerful and or obsolete. And power creep has been plaguing the game for quite a while now. Then they dropped this developer radio, which, funny enough, came out one day before Silver Wolf's rerun, a character who is very outdated and nobody would be rolling for unless they really like her. And I think we all know why they're doing this. They noticed the lack of people pulling on reruns and decided to do something about it, which I'm happy about. But there's many different ways they can go about buffing these characters. For the first option of what they can do, and the option I'm honestly hoping does not happen, is they simply increase the damage multipliers of older characters. While I do think it can definitely make older characters better to an extent, notably Zila if they buff her to the point where she can actually, kill things, her damage is by far her largest problem. So while it would benefit characters like her, it wouldn't do much in the grand scheme of things because the numbers are still going to keep going up and the damage inflation will still happen. On this note, I could see them doing something that they did already in Star Rail's older brother, Genshin Impact, which is to add seasonal buffs based on the characters in the Imaginarium Theater that are currently featured. While I do think this could help old characters somewhat, it doesn't help them nearly as much as other options. One of the other options is to actually go back and rework the kits of older characters. I see this as a smart move because some characters are just really bad. Either they age very poorly, they don't work well, or they're Silver Wolf. I also think this is a more likely option over simply upping their multipliers. For example, Silver Wolf would be a pretty good character if she had more defense shred and an AoE weakness implant, or if we had some single target that could actually be used, but that's a story for another day. And a character like Yanqing losing his buffs if the enemies even dare blow on him is very bad. Updating the older kits and traces that are borderline useless would be great. Like seriously, why do so many old units have defense and HP traces as damage dealers? There is a list of possible characters that are getting buffed, which I'm going to blur out because I don't want to spread misinformation, but I do hope said characters actually get reworked to be more in line with today's meta. For other ways these changes could be implemented, I wanted to look at other games. I did a little bit of research, and by a little bit of research, I mean I just googled gotchas that buff older characters. And here's what I found. Apologies if there's any mistakes. Finding info on some of these was way harder than I thought. Genshin Impact actually did buff a character once with Zhongli, who was very weak on launch, and then he got a pretty sizable buff across the board, and he's still a great sustainer even to this day. However, I don't see HSR giving every character a buff to that degree, due to Zhongli being the Archon in the region that's representing China, so it seemed to be more of a special case. Da Wei's favorite child, Honkai Impact 3rd, has the Augment Core system to help buff up older units. However, from what I've been told, that system has since been abandoned and the power creep in that game is 10 times worse than it is in Star Rail. I know all 12 of its players are very upset about that. Dragon Ball Dokkan Battle buffs its old characters as well using the Extreme Z Awakening system, which allows characters to further level up and become stronger. Fate Grand Order has two different ways they buff their characters. One is by completing a smaller story quest about the character and you get the buff after you're done. The second is by completing 3 combat stages and then you get the buff. The reason I bring all these up is because I think that Hoyoverse should use these as a sort of baseline on how to go about doing this. If I had to guess, it would be similar to those quests in Genshin Impact for the custom echoes of your characters. I will never forgive the person who made the one for Ganyu. It would be nice if we maybe got a little quest to the character, kind of like the dating simulators from Zenless Zone Zero, but I honestly think it would be pretty tedious to make a new one for every character that they want to buff. It would be cool though. Afterwards, we would receive the item or buff to upgrade our character. And I hope when they do this, they make it toggleable, because we still don't have toggleable eidolons and it can get very annoying. And there are some situations where your character actually becomes weaker by having eidolons. So I'm hoping you can turn it on and off whenever you want. And with all that talk of possibly how they're going to go about buffing these older characters, I think it's important to discuss why them doing this is so important. Honkai Star Rail is a gacha game. Gacha games are built on you pulling your favorite waifus and husbandos, and to have them be borderline unusable a few patches later is very not fun. Not to mention that all these characters cost the same amount to pull for, so they should all at least have some use. There are a lot of 5 stars, limited ones, who see very little to no use because of the fact that they are pretty much abandoned by the landscape of the game. Like I mentioned before, many play for husbandos and waifus, and do get very attached to these characters, but having characters not being worth pulling by their rerun, or requiring insane amounts of investment to even be competitive just a few months after their initial release is just bad. And I don't know about you, but I get significantly more enjoyment out of the game when I'm playing the characters that I like. For example, I wasn't the biggest fan of Zenless Zone Zero until I got Juyu-1, and then I really started liking the game. I don't think it's any secret that Honkai Star Rail has forgotten about most of its older cast, and that kind of sucks. It's Hoyoverse who created the issues that don't need to exist. It's not on anyone else besides them to resolve them. I know for a fact the biggest reason they're doing this is to combat low rerun sales, and if it makes them money and the players like it, then it's a win-win. And what it also tells me that Hoyoverse seemingly heard the community's issues. Players and creators did not give up talking about it. They kept complaining, they kept crying, they kept bitching, and we finally got change. As much as others wanted to push back on it, we did it. And I'm glad we were able to get change. If you have issues with the game, write feedback, post about it, try to get it out, and if enough people have the same issue, it just might actually work. In conclusion, I was pretty excited when I first heard the news, and while I still am, it really needs to be implemented well in order to really resolve the issues with power creep. I know I'm somewhat late to this, but I really want to know your thoughts. Who do you think deserves a buff? How do you think they should buff them? Let me know in the comments, I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed,
smash that subscribe button!
And consider joining the Express Train Discord server. Next video is going to be something I plan to talk about for quite a while, so it might take a bit to come out. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.